Hey, it's me, Raika. Today we're going to have a look at the brand new Mauler hero, Naroko the Dune Gremlin. Now this hero wears plate-based gear, is part of the tank class, and her primary role is to provide a significant amount of offense, defense, and various other utility options for your team. So let's have a look at her skills. Now this hero over here is made up of two allies, Naroko and her little worm called Nadia. Now, both of these will have various interactions and will greatly affect how your teammates and your team compositions are made up. So let's have a look at these skills. Her ultimate skill, Groundbreaker. Naruko summons a young Nadia, which is the little worm, who inherits 120% of Naruko's initial attributes and is immune to control effects. If Nadia is already on the battlefield, she breaks out of the ground in the area most densely populated of enemies, causing them AoE damage and knocking them into the air. She then taunts enemies within range for 5 seconds, while her health is reduced to no less than 20% in the next 5 seconds. The level 2, while Nadia is alive, each time a summoned entity dies on the battlefield, Nadia absorbs its essence and grows, recovering her health and increasing her initial attack and max health. She can grow up to 5 times. So if you have any allied heroes that summon various summons, this will be a perfect match with this hero, Naruko. The level 3, when an enemy hero uses their ultimate skill while Nadia is taunting, all allied heroes' defense rating is increased by 40% for 8 seconds. Now this is similar to another hero such as Merlin with his premonitions, where if the enemy hero uses their ultimate ability, they will get various defensive abilities such as shield, and in this case for this specific hero, defense, which is a massive amount for your allied heroes. Her next ability, Sandy Citadel. Naruko manipulates surrounding sand to grant all enemy heroes a sand shield lasting 6 seconds, while pilfering 50% of the current value of the enemy's shields and converting it into their sand shield value, then dealing damage to them. A sand shield cannot be dispelled, and once it ends, it deals damage equal to 100% of the total pilfered shield value to the enemy. So if you combine this damage with her pet or various allied heroes, this is a massive amount of damage that she can do to all enemy heroes. The level 2, when an enemy receives a shield, while their sand shield is active, 50% of their shield value is pilfered again, or it is converted into the sand shield value. And level 3, Naruko deals increased damage to all enemies, so this is a 20% increase of increased damage. And the level 4, when an enemy with a sand shield is attacked by an allied hero, the enemy loses health for 150% of the attacker's attack rating. This effect can only be triggered by each ally up to 2 times every 1 second. The next ability, Dusty Tornadoes. Naruko rings her bells and summons 3 sandfish that smash into no more than 3 enemies with the highest attack rating. Each sandfish deals damage once and then it dies. Level 2 and 3 damage is increased, and the 30 engravings, when a sandfish dies, it explodes, dealing damage for 150% of Naruko's attack rating to nearby enemies and stunning them for 3 seconds. The next ability, Monstrous Morphous. At the start of battle, young Nadia and Naruko enter the battlefield together. Each time Nadia the worm takes damage equal to 5% of her max health, she grants healing to all allied heroes for 75% of her health lost. So this is pretty significant, especially when she taunts enemy heroes, as this will constantly be providing healing to your allies so they can survive longer in battle. The level 2, for every cumulative damage received by an allied entity, so this is a hero or summoned unit, equal to 20% of their max health, they restore Nadia's health by 5%. So this back and forth healing will constantly keep your allied heroes topped up and ready to go. And the level 3, once Nadia has grown 5 times, she becomes an adult worm crawler. Her normal attack will deal an additional damage equaling part of her max health, which is a total of 3% of her max health that she can deal to the enemy heroes. And the level 4 or 16 engravings, when Nadia becomes an adult, Worm Crawler. She sprays venom 5 times against random nearby enemies. Each spray deals damage to the target. Thereafter, the deaths for every 3 summoned entities, Nadia sprays venom 3 times instead of her normal attack. So this supercharges her normal attack, allowing her to deal more damage. So let's have a look at her signature item. So when you unlock the symbiotic bond, the unlock 10 and 20 all have a similar effect. However, these effects are strengthened if you upgrade it more and more. So at the level 20, attributes are increased by 8% of Nadia's attack rating each time Nadia grows. So this is the worm. So as she can grow 5 times, this is a total of 40% permanent increase to your allied attack rating. And the 30 signature item, Venom sprayed by Nadia reduces the target's defense by 10% for 8 seconds. This effect can be stacked 5 times. So this is a total of 50% defense reduction on the enemies. Her furniture respawn. When Naroko uses her ultimate skill, she restores Nadia's health by 100%. So this is a full health restoration. And the 9 of 9, when Naruko receives fatal damage, she spends 3 growth stacks and becomes immune to this damage while recovering 50% of her health. So, as I mentioned, if you have a lot of summons in your team or the enemy team, this will significantly benefit Naruko as she can constantly be becoming immune to damage and recovering a massive amount of her health for herself and for her teammates as well. So let's have a look at how she does in battle. So let's start off with this training dummy over here. So as we can see, as soon as she starts and walks onto battle, she walks onto the battle with her little worm and herself. So this is similar to Scrake, and as you can see, the worm is each time the worm is dealing damage and destroying the enemies, we can see that the worm is getting much bigger and dealing more and more damage to the enemies. So let's have a look at the ultimate. So as we can see, the worm burrows and stun locks the enemies for a couple of seconds, dealing massive amounts of damage and significantly providing a lot of defense capabilities by taunting the enemies to attack the worm instead of your allies, allowing them to survive longer. So let's have a look at how she does at a much higher level deficit. Now this is a 200 level deficit at various formations of the enemy heroes. Now in some of these teams, she does even more damage than the actual damage dealer themselves. So in this case over here, she did more damage than Awakened Solus, and she also was able to keep up with the same amount of healing that Solus does as well. Now, this team is tailor-made for Naruko over here because Grizzle summons his minions, which constantly die. This will supercharge the worm, allowing the permanent buffs to be applied more effectively to your teammates. Now, this is another team that she did extremely well in. From this team, she did massive amounts of damage, healing, and she also tanked a lot of damage using her worm to distract and taunt the enemies. So let's have a look at the specific battle and how she does. So when you start this battle, she immediately summons her worm and starts going to work by controlling the enemy heroes. Now, from here we can see that she's converting the health from herself to the worm. Now, each time a minion dies, the worm gets slightly bigger. From here we can see the worm has gained a bit of power and is constantly buffing your allied heroes. This is a perfect hero, especially if you want to invade enemy lines, or your team can survive long enough so that they can deal enough damage, gain those permanent buffs, and eventually overpower the enemy heroes. Now, this worm plays a massive role as this provides a stun and a taunt-like effect, which can significantly reduce the amount of incoming damage for your allied heroes, such as Grizzle or Awakened Solus over here. So what is the minimum investment that I would recommend into this hero over here? Now, I would highly recommend getting her 30 signature item, as this significantly boosts her effectiveness, as this gives your allied heroes the permanent attack rating and the increase to their defense statistics, which can greatly improve their survivability. Also, I would highly recommend getting her 9 out of 9 finisher. The reason for this is this provides a lot of healing for herself, her worm, And in addition, it gives her an immunity to damage. And I would also recommend getting her 30 engravings. The reason for this, as this allows us to deal more damage, gives her an additional effect, stunning the enemies and exploding, dealing an AoE-like effect, so you can hit multiple targets if the enemies are grouped up or stacked on a singular target. Now, I would not recommend getting her 60 engravings, as this is a significant investment into this hero, and I would recommend getting more investment into your damage dealers, which needed more.